We do have differences.
La situación bancaria.
It was a moment just days ago where every word was parsed, every smile or lack of one scanned for meaning. And all quiet conversations presumably overheard by the Russian spy ship boldly docked in Havana's port. That diplomatic dance between the United States and Cuba, just that new, that important.
Cuba and the United States trying to work together has many grand implications on a geopolitical scale, but it's a lot more personal here at street level. There's a chance that just about everything that happens here, from how people communicate to what they read, to what they do for a living and how they pay for food, is about to change.
But change quickly? Not necessarily. Skepticism is fundamental here as the ingenuity that keeps Cuba running. The suspicious mind of Cuban performance artist Tania Bruguera, who has paid for testing the limits of speech here. Detained, followed, phone calls tapped, labeled a dissident. Still, she pushes the bounds to criticize the Castro government.
Is it worth it to you to have this conversation? I mean, we really don't want to put you in a bad spot.
I think it's very important to have these conversations.
Standing on a rooftop away from her apartment because of this. A brand new antenna installed just outside her windows only days ago as the talks began. She's convinced authorities are listening in, trying to stop her from talking to the media. Talking about a moment in Cuba she says she finds worrying, when the prospect of better economic times may mute desires for more political openness.
I think it's very, very dangerous to do like in China, for example, where you have a big economic drive, a huge economic growth, but what happens with human rights, what happens with people's knowledge of their rights? Because it's not, I had a problem the other day because I talked to someone in the street and say, no, human rights. And the person started shaking and said, don't say that, please, this is, I'm going to get into trouble.
And when all these cameras go away?
When the cameras goes away, everybody becomes more vulnerable.
You too?
Yep, everybody.
There's no wholesale sense that different times are for sure ahead here, in part because the look of change is just so hard to fathom. The one frequently talked about hope is that maybe the Americans will make good on their promise to try to help open up the internet. Cuba has among the worst net access in the world. Tech upgrades may be possible, but Cuban political will may not allow those communication lines to open wide. Which is why even talking about how some ingeniously jury-rig internet access now is a matter of being careful, meeting some in the shadows, finding those behind what's called a Friday packet. Not exactly legal. That's why this distributor wants to stay hidden. His job? Tap into the net access of the privileged few who have it and download movies, newspapers, software, documentaries. Then physically distribute them once a week.
So is this how it works, that people deliver a hard drive to you, you fill it up, you give it to like a courier who takes it back to them?
Esto funciona así. Nosotros somos matriz.
What happens is that we are a matrix, those of us who make the packages each week. There are 2 or 3 more, but we all have different content.
50 or 60 hard drives get filled and copied again and again. People writing lists of what they want to see for just a few pesos a week. This isn't about a social uprising, it's about earning a living, and he doubts it will change soon. There's just too much else that must happen first.
This service is still gonna be around for some time, because a lot of things still have to happen in this country, and that will make us stronger.
What's in it for them? That's the natural conversation of Cubans about these talks and changes ahead.
Here, I'll hold it. It's a ritual here.
And of course, what's in it for us, for Canadians?
It's a wrap.
The million-plus Canadian tourists a year surely wonder about competition for few rooms from the inevitable American onslaught, but there could be bigger worries. In the very complex where the diplomatic negotiations were underway, down a hall, behind a closed door, is the office of a small Canadian company that sees the talks as maybe the beginning of the end.
So while we've been in this building and everyone has been hoping for good things, you've been in room 106 thinking what?
I'm thinking, and in fact, the lawyer says here, how do we have an exit strategy? The mango juice.
A beverage distribution firm that's had almost exclusive access in Cuba, but fears once the doors open to others, Canadians will lose out.
We're talking about business. Therefore, when you get a big corporation like Coca-Cola or Pepsi or these big corporations, then the competition is fierce.
Where else but Cuba could Canadians have operated for years without interference from bigger American firms? It's been a good and loyal relationship, so forgive those who think it's about to get crowded.
Some big players are going to come in and they're going to try to wiggle their way, offering better terms or better prices and so on. And Cuba is still a country in need, so they'll react as any intelligent buyer would.
That's Canadian Guy Chartier with the development company 360 Vox, on a patch of land where ambitions are as vast as the view.
Imagine this place with 25 kilometers of boardwalks, bicycle paths, a beach club. We're actually over here.
The plans are done, the land secured long ago, not just for this development, but 2 others that are Canadian-Cuban partnerships. They'd be the first resorts of their kind here, not built yet, because the restrictions on Cuba have made funding hard. In his optimistic moments, Chartier hopes new talks mean money will flow.
Part of the promise from Obama is to remove or look at removing Cuba from the list of countries that sponsor terrorism. And that has a direct effect on being able to access World Bank and international banking systems, and that will make a huge change for Cuba.
So that must make a big difference for funding for you guys, too.
Indirectly, again, because the Cuban government is our partner.
And if so, imagine this. These old sniper nests and bunkers that once hid tanks aimed at the Florida Straits to protect from an American invasion could one day soon be raised to make way for cabanas filled with American tourists. The whole country filled with American tourists and businesses. The Caribbean sun burning off that Cold War chill. Adrienne Arsenault, CBC News, Havana.